Hi everyone, in this video we'll be taking a look at how we can implement PM2 monitoring for Node.js applications. So PM2 is a process manager which helps us to monitor Node.js applications, and also it has a lot of different features. For example, if your Node application exits because of an error or exception, PM2 will be able to automatically restart your application. So it is really useful and it is being used in production by a lot of different companies as well. So in this video, let's take a look at how we can actually kickstart a simple Node.js application, and we can also use PM2 to run our Node.js application. So let's get started. So the first step would be to actually clone this repo, which is actually boilerplate for Express API starter. So it provides a working Node.js application out of the box and with the API that we can test with. So to do that, let's go to this and we can copy this URL. And let's jump into our terminal. First step, let's create a working directory for our application. So let's call this pm2-node. Let's go into our working directory, and in here I'm going to git clone and paste this URL. So once this is done, let's go into our starter application. First thing we need to do is to do npm install to install all the dependencies. And the second step, let's verify if our application is running. To do that, I'm going to key in npm run start. So it says listening on localhost 3000. Let's visit that. And sure enough, our application is running. Okay, now let's stop this server. Let me do a very quick overview of what is happening inside this application. So this is a Node.js application based on Express. So in the source folder lives our code, the bulk of the code. So app.js actually configures the application. We can see that we have configured the index route to actually return this JSON, which is a status of success, and data is object which contains message of hello world. So that is exactly what we are seeing here. And similarly, I've also configured a route /API/v1, and it uses this API as the router. So where is this? This is going to be in this API folder, and you can see the routes which are mentioned inside here. So /users would be the main route, and that is being used and defined and used here. So when we visit /API/v1/users, we can get a list of users. So to see that, let's start our server, and it's running. So if we open up a tab, localhost /API/v1/users, we would actually receive this payload. So you can see the data contains users as a key, and it gives back an array of users here. So that is provided out of the box by this boilerplate, and our job is to now use PM2 to run this application. So before going into that, I'm going to give you a quick run through of what is PM2. So if you go into this website, pm2.keymetrics.io, this is the home page and official page for PM2. So PM2 is an advanced production process manager for Node.js. Right? It describes itself as a daemon process manager that will help to manage and keep your application online 24/7. So that is a huge goal for many of the organizations or applications which are in production, right? To have a high uptime, to always be available for their consumers or customers to be used, right? So that requires the application to be up and running 24/7, and PM2 helps us to achieve that. So if you go down, so there's a lot of features that actually makes PM2 stand out. So for example, there's container integration, there's watch and reload. For example, if there are changes in your files, PM2 will notice that something has changed in your application, and it will restart the service. Monitoring is one of the key areas that we will be focusing on today to see how it enables us to monitor Node.js applications. And there's other things like cluster mode, hot reload, startup scripts, etc. So you can go through this in the official documentation. And now that we know about PM2, so let's jump back to our terminal and let's stop our application. Let's install PM2 first, right? To install PM2, we are just going to copy this command. You will notice there's a -g flag, which means we are installing this globally. So we would need to do that and copy and paste that in the terminal and press enter. So I've already installed PM2. Maybe this might update it or something. Let's see. But if you don't have it already installed, make sure to execute this command. So that's done. We have so they actually updated a few packages, so that's good. So now that we are inside here, which is our working directory, firstly let's actually create a config file for PM2 to understand what to do exactly. So to do that, PM2 has an init method, init command. So we are going to key in PM2 space init, and this is a very simple application, so we can just put simple. We just need a simple config file. And let's jump back into our code editor, and you would see a new file that has been created, which is ecosystem.config.js. So this is the config file that PM2 will look for, and it will follow exactly this to run your application. So here we have said that the script is just run the app.js, but in fact we already have defined a script here, which is to run npm start, right? So this in turn will execute node source slash index.js, etc. So to do that, instead of this, let's delete this. We put it as npm, and in something called args, which is arguments, I'm going to put in start. So it will run npm start, which will in turn run what is defined in our package.json file. So for the app name, we can just call it something like PM2 node, right? So once this is done on your terminal, and now you're going to say PM2 start, and we are going to say ecosystem.config.js and press enter. So this would very simply check if any application of the same name is running, else it will launch that instance, and you can see the status is online. So if you want to see what processes are running on PM2, we can key in PM2 list. So this will list all the processes. So we can see that this application has a name of PM2-node, which is what we have named in this config. We can see the ID is 0. And how do we know what the application is, like logging out? So to see the logs, what we need to do is say PM2 logs, and we can press enter. This will show all the logs in all the application, or we can give it the ID. So I'm just going to put the ID, which is 0. So this shows me the logs that are coming out from this application. So if we are going to actually visit like something like this URL, let's do a refresh. You can see that it gives out this information, which means our app is currently working. Let's go back to the index page and press enter. So this also works. So if you go back, we can see the logs are being populated here. And all of this log is being stored on my local as well. So you can see there's a global.pm2 folder, which is residing in this directory. So even if you quit the app, you can actually, if you cat this, you can see the logs are being persisted here. So all of this is being stored in this file. So next, let's take a look at how we can restart our application if there are any file changes. So let's go back to our terminal and let's list the process which is running. So PM2, this is running. Let's delete this process for a while. So I'm just going to put PM2 delete and give the ID of the process. So this will delete the process, right? So let's go back to our code. So let's open our code in a code editor like Visual Studio Code. And in this ecosystem config that we had defined, we're going to add another key which is called watch. And I'm going to tell which directories should this PM2 manager watch for. So here I'm going to put source, right? So if anything inside this source folder is changed, I want PM2 to reload my app with the changes. So once this is done, I press save. And now let's go back to our terminal and let's start our application with PM2 start ecosystem config. And now let's log this out. So you can see our application is listening, and that means our application is online. So what we're going to do is that we're going to change something in one of these files. So instead of returning hello world, I'm going to return something like hello PM2, right? So let's save this, and you would see that PM2 will auto restart our application. So now if you actually visit the index page, refresh, you would see hello PM2 instead. And this would apply for anywhere inside this source folder. So even like inside the routes folder or anything, we can actually test this. So instead of using a route like this, what if we actually have a route like that says users/all, right? So I'm going to save this, and on the terminal you would see it's restarted. And now if you actually visit this, you shouldn't get anything. It says error not found, but if you slash all, you would see the data is coming. So that is the power of PM2, because it can automatically notice changes in your code, in your files, and then restart your application, bring it instantly live with the latest changes. So that is one advantage. The second thing that we're going to look at is how we can do monitoring of our Node.js application from the cloud while this is running in an AWS instance or a Docker container or anything, right? So for that, we can actually go to this website called app.pm2.io. So if you go there, it will ask you to create a new bucket. So I'm just going to say PM2 node is the bucket name. You press on create. So it says you can connect your app in 2 easy steps. So you can choose the various environments that you're running in. So right now I'm running on my local, but similarly you can run it in a Docker container, you can run it on AWS instance. So there are respective instructions for that. So let's try out the server method, right? So first we need to install the runtime, which is done. Next we need to link our server to PM2. So I'm going to copy this. And let's stop this and let's delete the process first. And now let's link the process. So this is linking my machine to here. Instantly this updated, right? And from here I'm going to start PM2, which is PM2 start ecosystem config. And you can see everything's happening in real time. It is the monitor has changed. On this monitoring dashboard, we get a lot of statistics: how much percentage of the CPU I am using, how much memory my application is using, the event loop that Node.js uses, the lag inside there, the latency issues, how many restarts happened. Everything is being shown here, right? So it's really useful too. And there are even live logs for you. So for example, let's go back to this and let's refresh. So we have refreshed, and if you go back to this monitoring tool and click on show logs, and now we can see that we are in a log view, and this is all happening in real time. And let's go back to our application and let's refresh this. Let's click enter. So this will actually hit the endpoint again. Let's go back and we can see this has been registered. So at which time was the timestamp, on which machine, what API was being called, and what was the response that was given. Everything has been logged out here. Similarly, if you actually visit the index page, for example, you would see that it says this message, right? So this will also be captured. The get endpoint, get slash, which is the get index page, has also been captured here. So that is really powerful because we have real-time logs in the cloud right now, all with just 2 easy steps, right? Similarly, we can actually monitor for restarts. So if I'm going to change this back to the normal route, let me save this, and we can see that it's being it's restarted. So back in the dashboard, we can see restarts is now 1, and we can see the number of restarts have increased to 1. So that is the utility of PM2. We can see everything in a very nice dashboard, all summarized for us. And anytime if we need to check on the uptime, to check how many times restarts happened, what's the memory usage, CPU usage, anything can be found from this monitor. Similarly, you can find even things like the Node.js version being used, the PM2 version, everything has been actually captured here. And you can also click on this to find out even more details. For example, the heap size, the heap usage, so that can be found out here. And there's a nice little sidebar for you to understand more about the processes as well. So similarly, this is for the CPU. So there's not much happening here, so that's why it's pretty stable. But if you are running a production application, there would be a lot of ups and downs on the CPU usage based on how much traffic you're handling, what systems and processes you're running, everything. And another good thing is that you can restart your application right from the cloud. So if I click on restart, it's actually performing the reload. So you can see all the reload has been completed. I actually managed to restart my application right from here, the dashboard. So in that way, PM2 is a really powerful tool, especially for Node.js apps, because it really helps you to control your application, helps you to understand your application. You can understand when it's going through high periods of traffic, and what issues are being faced, what's the logs, everything can be found out all through this website, and is all stored in the cloud. So it's really useful in that way, and through this you can build a production based system, and you can implement monitoring for your application in just a few easy steps. So I hope this video is really useful for you to understand how you can implement monitoring through PM2 for Node.js applications. So if it was helpful, do remember to give me a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel for more upcoming videos. Thank you.